Hello guys, welcome to Edukripa. Today we are starting with the lesson acid, bases and salts. This will be the part 1 of the video and we are going to discuss about acid and bases mainly in this part of the video. First, we'll get a brief introduction, not brief, a small introduction to acids and bases. Do you think have you ever heard the word acid or base in your everyday life? Maybe you have heard, maybe you have not heard. Acids and bases play a crucial role in our everyday life. Acids help in certain things, bases help in certain things. We'll get to know in the further chapter where they help, what they help in. We'll get to know slowly what they help in exactly. Here we can see that food, soaps, and medicine. What exactly are found in food, soaps, and medicine? We'll get to know in the further chapter. Now we'll start with acids. What are acids? Acids are substances which are usually sour to taste. These are kind of chemical substances. Acids are chemical. But you may question that if they are chemical, are they eligible for being tasted? Yes, they are. There are certain acids which we'll get to know. What are those acids? Acids react with bases to form salts and water. We'll get to know what that is. Lemon juice, vinegar, curd. These are some of the substances that we use in our daily basis in our life. Of course, how does a lemon juice contain acidic? Because it tastes sour. So we have concluded that lemon juice is an acid. Vinegar. If you have ever tasted a vinegar, it is slightly bitter to taste, sour to taste. Sorry, it is sour to taste. So we have concluded that it is acidic in nature. And curd. Of course, every household uses curd. Curd, if kept for a certain extent, it turns sour. So this is also one of the example for acids in our daily life. Next, it is bases. Bases are bitter to taste and soapy to touch. How do we conclude that? Some of the bases that we see around in our daily life is soap, the soap which we use for whatever purpose may be, whether it may be bathing, washing the clothes, cleaning the utensils, anything. Baking soda, which we use for in certain substances to give the fluffiness for the food. Toothpaste to brush the teeth, and lime water. Lime water is a chemical substance which we apply on beetle leaf usually. Next, what crucial role does the basis play in our daily life? As you can see, there is soap which we use in our daily life to clean ourselves, to clean the clothes, to clean other substances. Toothpaste, which is one of the main chemical substances which we use in our daily life. And next is baking soda. Every now and then we use baking soda to cook cakes and something or the other thing. Now we will go with one of the main chemical substances which is very crucial in this chapter, which are indicators. What are indicators? Indicators are the chemical substances which helps us determine the nature of the solution. Nature of the solution meaning whether it is acid or a base, we will get to know when we use this substance called as indicators. What happens when we use indicators on a certain solution? When we use it on a certain solution, it may be acidic or basic. It changes its color. Originally, some indicators colors will be something, its base color. When we add it to base or an acid, it changes its color. One of the examples or common indicators which we can see around us are litmus paper, turmeric, and also a special a flower called as China rose. We also call China rose as gudhal, which is mentioned in the textbook, NCERT textbook, if you have ever noticed. So first is litmus. Originally, the color of litmus is mauve. It is a shade of a purple actually. What happens? Litmus turns red in acidic solutions. It turns from mauve to red in acidic solutions and mauve to blue in basic solutions. Solutions means acid is mixed with water. That's what solutions means. You can't directly add it to an acid, but you can add it to a solution of acid or a solution of base to whether get to know if it's an acidic or basic. Next, other type of natural indicators, turmeric and China rose, are natural indicators. Litmus is usually extracted chemically that we will see. Lichens, natural indicators around us. Lichens are one of the type of organisms. It is a type of algae which through chemical process, litmus is extracted and it is coated down into a paper. When you approach usually a chemical store, if you ask for a litmus paper, you will get strips of litmus. We saw that in the first slide, if you noticed or not. These strips that are present, these are called as litmus papers. So you will get shades of litmus paper, but at the end of it, nature is determined by whether it turns acidic or basic, whether it turns blue or red based on the nature of the solution. That's what determines the nature of the solution. Color of the litmus paper doesn't matter. Litmus is extracted from lichens. As I told you, lichens are a type of algae. They are chemically processed for extracting this litmus. What does it do? We already learned in the previous slide. It turns red in acidic solution and blue in basic solution, which helps us identify the nature of the substances. Now comes the turmeric. Turmeric, of course, is a natural spice which is used in our daily life for households, cooking purpose. What does it do? It is sort of opposite of lichens actually. Turmeric, its base color is yellow. It changes its color from yellow. In as. Pause. Next, natural indicator is turmeric. Turmeric is usually yellow in color and is used in our daily household for cooking purpose, of course. Turmeric in acids doesn't change the color. It remains yellow in acids, but in bases, it is sort of opposite. It changes into red or brownish. Brownish in bases, making it a useful natural indicator. Whether you want to determine when you don't have access for the litmus paper, if you have access for the turmeric, you can usually determine the nature of the solution. How? If you add it to the acidic solution, it will not change color. But when you add it to the basic solution, it will change into reddish brown or red. It usually changes into red or brownish. Next is China rose. Another example for natural indicator. We also said that this is called as Goodhull, which turns pink in acidic solutions and green in basic solutions. This is all you need to remember about the natural indicators. Next, we will explore some of the acids and bases seen in our daily life. Lemon. First one is lemon. Lemon juice contains citric acid. The acid which is present in lemon is called as citric acid. All the citric fruits, orange, lemon, whatever the citric fruit that you take, it will usually contain citric acid. Next, curd. I told you that curd, when kept for a long time, tastes sour. Why? It contains an acid called as lactic acid. It contains lactic acid, hence it tastes sour. Next is some of the bases. Baking soda. I told you, baking soda's chemical name is sodium bicarbonate. Baking soda is used for giving fluffiness to the cakes, whatever it might be, cake, whatever you are cooking. If you are cooking some savories, it will give the fluffiness to those savories. If you are cooking cake, it will give the fluffiness to that cake. Next is soap. Soap usually it has sodium hydroxide, or it may contain sometimes potassium hydroxide also. Potassium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide. Now let's explore this table a little bit. I told you that vinegar is one of the acids, natural acids. What does this contain? It contains an acid called as acetic acid. Next, formic acid. Have you ever been bit by an ant or a bee? Why does it pain? Because these insects usually have an acid called as formic acid, which swells our hand when the bit area, it swells, it itches, sometimes it pains. Why? Because of this formic acid. Next, I already told you about curd. Next is something called as oxalic acid. Oxalic acid is usually found in green leafy vegetables, for example, spinach. Next, ascorbic acid is associated with the vitamin C. What are the examples for these? Some citrus fruits, and particularly amla, is usually very rich in its ascorbic acid. Next is tartaric acid. Tartaric, main example which you can remember is tamarind and grapes. These two will usually suffice for providing the examples for this. Next, some of the bases. Calcium hydroxide. I told you lime water. In the previous slide, I told you that I'll tell you what the base is. This is usually calcium hydroxide. Next, window cleaners. Bases are also useful in this way. Everyday household items that we use for cleaning purpose usually contain some or the other base. Window cleaner or any other cleaner usually contains ammonium hydroxide. Next is soap. I already told you soap. Next is magnesium hydroxide or milk of magnesia. This is usually given to treat gastric problems. When you get when you feel a burning sensation in your stomach, or when your stomach produces too much of acid, this base is given for treating that. Gastric problem solutions can be treated with milk of magnesia, its chemical name being magnesium hydroxide. So what are the key takeaways from this part of the video that we learned? We have to remember the characteristics of acids and bases. It is not exactly definition of acid and bases, they are the characteristic of acid and bases. Acids are typically sour to taste and turns blue litmus paper into red, or colorless litmus paper into red. Next, bases, they are bitter to taste and soapy to touch. They change red litmus paper to blue, or colorless litmus paper to blue. Next, indicators. We learned what indicators are. Indicators are chemical substances used for determining the nature of the solution, whether it may be acid or base, or whether it may be just water, which is considered as neutral. Indicators can be used to determine that. What are the indicators that we saw? Turmeric, litmus, and China rose. So let's just engage your curiosity. Take any of the acids and which substances which you think are acid or base in your daily life. Try testing it with turmeric. If you have access to China rose, or if you have access to litmus paper, try and experiment it, and please comment down what the result that you got. This was the part 1 of the acid, bases, and salts chapter. In the next video, we will explore more about activities present in the textbook and the next part of the chapter, which is neutralization. Thank you.